Hello everyone, this is a Kingdom Come Deliverance review. If you make it to the end of this video, please like and subscribe down below, as I hope to do more of this in the future. Before I begin my review on the game, I should mention that I played this game on PC and not console. I mention this since I believe it changes the experience of the game. This game was released in 2018 by Warhorse Studios. It takes place in the Holy Roman Empire in the year 1403. For reference, the fall of Constantinople takes place in 1453. The Norman conquest of England occurs in 1066. The story follows a young Henry who tries to survive the chaos caused by two warring brothers and to bring justice to those who murdered his family and village. In Henry's journey, the player will experience many of the classical RPG elements, loot hunting, crafting, and unique side quests, all centered around the idea of realism. The story of Kingdom Come, I felt, was well paced. For most of the game, the pacing would pick up to a rise of conflict, and when the conflict was over, the pacing would slow down, but not enough to ever be considered boring. And when I had gone through a stretch without playing the game, I was able to pick up right where I left off without any confusion. When I felt I needed to level up my character for the main storyline, the side quests provided a good distraction and usually good reward for completing them. When I try to think of moments in the story that I took issue with, there's only two, and spoiler warning for those that haven't played: the monastery chapter and the surprise twist at the end. The monastery questline, I think, takes too long to complete, and I thought the process was tedious to the point I skipped all the side quests just so I could leave faster. And the surprise twist at the end of the game was a bit of a speed bump and otherwise smooth ride. The twist I considered largely unnecessary. Combat in Kingdom Come is unique to say the least, in that both the character and the player have a learning curve to go through. The combat consists of target locks, dividing into 5 strike zones. The target lock also provides indications of when the enemy is going to attack and when you should block. This target lock takes time to get used to, making early combat difficult, as it would be for a blacksmith's son that has never trained for war. But as the character trains, his reflexes grow and the combat becomes easier. Persistence is key for the player to understand how combat works in this game, especially when it comes to the bow. Since the bow comes without crosshairs on your screen, the only way to level up the bow is to use it against NPCs. I recommend hunting boars with a weak bow to level up the skill. For the player, offensive and defensive, I highly recommend that the players spend their time at the trainer to level up weapon skills before exploring the game. The skills in this game, while all can be useful, not all are equal. Skills like drinking and hunting I didn't find too useful in regular gameplay, except for when a quest specifically requires it. This I consider a downside, as these quests felt like an attempt to justify having these skills in the game. Many of the skills found in the game are standard for RPGs, with unique twists such as alchemy and maintenance. Skill alchemy, being very useful, provides health potions, poisons, and various buffs to the character. The process of making a potion is definitely new and inventive, but it does become tedious to go through, and at times I chose to sell the gathered herbs and buy the potions rather than go through the process of making the ones I wanted. So I do recommend leveling up alchemy as fast as you can to unlock the multi-brew perk as soon as possible. The skill of maintenance, being more than just using repair kits, the game provides a grinding wheel that allows the player to clean and sharpen their weapons. Done correctly, this wheel will provide more damage. Done incorrectly, your weapon will be blunted and damaged. The skills I want to talk about the most are the ones not in the game. Starting with tracking, this ability should have been in the game as its own skill, or at the very least unlockable in the hunting skill tree. Tracking would have been very useful to find wild animals to hunt, detect ambushes, and find bandit camps. The second skill wanted in the game is camp building. Scattered throughout the game are camps ranging from small to large, made by NPCs, and it just doesn't make sense why Henry couldn't learn how to make his own camp. Being able to make a camp would have provided a place to cook food and a place to save, a very useful skill in the hardcore mode since you can't use potions to save in that mode of the game. The map of this game provides plenty of exploration to the player and a well-developed landscape to view. Throughout this landscape, the player will find treasure chests, random encounters, and homesteads throughout the map, truly giving medieval feel to the game. One point I'd like to make about the exploration of the game are the designated points of interest. Many of these points of interest range from ruins of an old keep, a burned out home, or a grave at the side of the road. These points of interest generally have loot for the character, either gold or equipment, but there are many others that had nothing to be found. Other than an interesting design, there isn't anything there for the character, making there a bit of a disappointment. All the same, these points of interest paint a bigger world outside of the main character's story. Now, most of my complaints involve or surround the combat. These first few are things I found annoying but don't change my overall enjoyment of the game. Starting with the weapons, I thought it was disappointing that I couldn't permanently equip a spear or polearm. While you can pick one up, you can't put it into your inventory and you will immediately drop it when you attempt to ride your horse, so you can't even travel around with it. And considering that the main point of the game is realism, I found it contradicting that I couldn't use the spear, as these types of weapons were the most common for thousands of years. The second weapon didn't even appear in the game at all: crossbows. By the time that this game takes place, crossbows were well established throughout Europe, and it just doesn't make sense that they are not in the game. And the crossbow would have been a good addition for players that didn't want to take the time to learn how to use the bow. The addition of this weapon wouldn't have made the game unbalanced, as crossbows were easier to shoot, they were also slower. And as a loot item, crossbows came in many forms, from a standard weapon made from wood meant for hunting to warbows made from metal meant to pierce armor. Next are combo attacks. I believe that the timing to perform a combo attack is too sensitive for the mouse to perform, and is probably easier on a console. So during my playthrough, I relied on regular attacks and master strikes. And according to my character statistics, I've only performed one combo strike, and I think it was by accident. The game provides enough options that you can go through the game without using combo attacks, and by the end of the game, your character will do more than enough damage and the NPC won't survive the first few strikes of the combo anyway. My biggest complaint is the target lock. The game's combat system is centered around the target lock, and with the keyboard it was often difficult to shift between targets when fighting more than two opponents. More than once I was focused on the center screen bandit, and I would attempt to shift the target lock, but it would change to the wrong opponent, and I would take a blow to the head for it. On the other occasions, the target lock would make it difficult to turn around to fight the enemy that was already behind me. This was particularly frustrating because we could still have the target zones without the walking, and with the strike zones appearing on the target who was the most center on screen, letting the player move the camera as it needed to. However, the current solution to the target lock is to simply walk backwards and hope you don't get pinned against a tree or fall off a cliff. If you did manage to survive the combat, next you need to do is pick up the loot. This could prove a challenge as the loot doesn't have a location indicator on your screen. You simply have to find it. Finding the loot could be a problem if the battle took place over a large area. Even harder if the bandit took off running, dropping his weapons, and then dying of his wounds. And it simply wasn't worth trying to find the loot at night. If you did manage to find the loot, enough grass or rocks could block the view and you won't be able to pick it up. Quest-related or important loot would appear at the gravedigger's house and you would need to steal it back. But you're committing a crime and risk being caught by the guards. A simple solution to this problem would have been for the creators to add a skill command for the hound to search the area for loot. Now, I'm not going to rate this game on a scale of 1 to 10. I just believe that it's too analytical for gaming reviews, so I will grade this game and future reviews on will I play it or watch it again. For Kingdom Come Deliverance, I would play this game again. The combat is inventive, the skills are unique, and the map leaves plenty to explore. And with Kingdom Come 2 being teased, I look forward to playing another title from Warhorse Studios.